I warmly welcome everyone, and this thing in front of me, I don't even know what it looks like because it's in a box. This is an external battery from SolarPlay, but it's not the kind of size you would take on a plane to charge your little phone. This is a huge battery. So instead of any more rambling, I'll just get started and open it. It weighs 22 kilo. Let's move on. After there was a box in the box, it is possible. There will be another box in it, and in the end, we will have a very small battery. Before I elaborate further here are the details. It's a power station. What a surprise. It has a lithium iron phosphate battery inside, 2160 watt-hours, and is theoretically capable of 2400 watts of output power. It has DC output, all kinds of other ports, and the weight is noted here, which is 21.5 kilodals. It seems that they can manufacture a slightly larger one in the same size, a 2300 watt-hour device, which would weigh 22.3 kilogram. But the main point is that everything is here, and it states how much you can charge and use, so there are no big surprises. Now comes the moment of truth. There is a description, and let's say this device is straightforward enough that we will take a look at it. And here is the box, which I will now take out. We are fine. I can sit down better. And I turn it a bit like this so I can see what I'm talking about. Well, this is a huge battery, Jesus Christ. The situation is that, based on its capacity and performance, this is not just a small entry-level gadget. Rather, it's a relatively high-end item, or I could say it's mid-range. If we look at the Bluetti range, which we are familiar with, we have tested or tried several similar batteries. The Bluetti offering has the same capability as this SolarPlay device, but it costs almost twice as much, as it officially retails for 800 euros, and there is some coupon code discount available in the video description. Even if you look for similar stuff at Bluetti, you will find the AC200L, which costs 1500 euros. So this is a much more favorable item, and the obvious question is, if the same performance can be achieved for half the price, where is the compromise? There are a few minor details that can certainly be considered compromises. To the best of my knowledge, there is no Bluetooth connection in this. Even with the Bluetti products, each of them can be somewhat controlled from a phone. Moreover, on top of this device, there is not a Qi charger or two Qi chargers, like those found on many more expensive Bluetti devices, but rather a door that is meant for taking out the cables that are provided with it. But, and here's a but, let's immediately notice that our power cable is a standard power cable, which is good, because the inverter is built into the box, so there's no bulky adapter that you need to connect the power cable to. This little thing is the cable you can use to connect the solar panel if you want to charge this device from a solar panel. Now, speaking of solar panels, they sent one of these as well, and I think it's already visible, but we'll unpack it later. This is a 200-watt solar panel, a typical foldable thing, and it costs around 240 euros, which isn't much cheaper than the Bluetti solution, as that one is 280 euros for the same output. However, this one has a slightly more favorable position, so you can also add a solar panel if you prefer to charge it with solar energy. One of the features of this box is that you can charge it simultaneously from the grid and from the solar panel. If you have bright sunny weather, you can theoretically charge this box in about an hour and a half, and then you have a relatively large capacity of over 2 kilowatt that you can use for anything. And why not start testing this here, plugging things in, maybe disassembling it and measuring it? Let me say that the market for these devices is relatively narrow, but essentially the idea is that you throw this box into your RV, and wherever you settle for the night, you have a relatively good amount of power. This allows you not only to charge your lamps, laptop, and phone, which can be done with a smaller box, but it can also power a small refrigerator, a fan, a toaster, or a kettle for your morning coffee. So, its output power and capacity are sufficient to handle an average morning when you turn on many devices, or an average barbecue when you also turn on several appliances. I'm not saying you should take it with you for fishing because I think it's too big for that. It probably wouldn't hold up under the dock, but still, it's not a lightweight product. There are many places in the countryside where there are some buildings, but no public utilities. However, this box is available, which you can take with you. If it's sunny, you can charge it during the day, and in the evenings, you can watch your movies on it, because it provides enough power for your laptop, or you could even connect a TV to it. So, this is a necessary solution for places where you otherwise have no access to grid electricity. Unfortunately, there is also a current sad consequence that a lot of such items are being sent to Ukraine because when there is uncertainty in the power supply, a temporary solution like this can help get through a day or two. Additionally, this box can function as a UPS, which means it operates as an uninterruptible power supply. So if it is plugged into the outlet, and several other devices are connected to this box, which need to operate continuously, then if the power from the outlet goes out, the devices that would normally use grid electricity can continue to operate until the battery capacity is exhausted. There is another category of people who really love these boxes, the preppers. This is a subculture of individuals who are preparing for an apocalypse where all services will cease. They obviously love these devices. My theory about the prepper community, whether in favor of or against it, is that if the world becomes so bad that we can only sustain ourselves with batteries, then living in that world might not be very good. But that should be their moral and philosophical dilemma. I don't believe that I will ever become a prepper, but I can imagine that in a prepper community, such an external battery should practically be a basic necessity. It may not be just one, but at least 5. So there is a market for it, but it must be said that it is clearly for those who really utilize it, as it is not cheap at all, and it is not as portable as one would like a power source to be. However, it is still a comprehensible and viable product. All right, let's get started with the testing. Let's begin by going around the machine. You see, the door above that I showed had the cables in it. Well, here is my quality concern because this lid, how should I put it, is made of quite thin plastic, like a flimsy yogurt cup, and it doesn't always open the way one would like. This is a bit much, to be honest. Here from the front, we need to turn it on using the power button. It would be good if it turned on, and the fan would immediately start running. But since it won't be under load now, the fan will soon quiet down. It also shows not only the battery percentage at the bottom, but also how many hours it can power the device currently connected. This will quickly go up to 99, indicating the maximum it can display. And since nothing is currently connected, it's normal for it to soon show 99. Now, here the sections on the front panel are divided into several parts. These are the DC ports, both input and output ports, and this is mainly output, because there is a cigarette lighter connector and a DC output. There would be a USB strip that can showcase 2 Quick Charge 3.0 Type A ports, 320 WPD ports, and one 100 WPD port, which can be turned on and off separately with the USB on-off switch. Additionally, I can adjust how many watts I would like to feed in at a certain point using the input button. We have a lamp that can function as a regular lamp and also has a flashing feature, which is really necessary. If we go over to the side, we have a fuse that regulates the overload. It will pop if it's overloaded. If I lift this, which is also a push button thing, you will see that here are the inputs where the power cable and the solar panel connect, and we have two standard 230-volt sockets that can be connected to any household appliance. And that's about it. So there's not much else on it. But it doesn't necessarily need to be. However, since we've started playing around with the beginning, let's run a quick test right away. Here is our good yellow charger, the yellow ones. And if I turn this on, so it's good because it has a display. And when I turn on the USB here, a little blue thing appears. And if I connect it to the 20-watt one, it should theoretically start charging our device. It takes a little time for it to get going, but you can see that it has already started. We are around 18 watts here, and the rest is probably charging loss, 19, and it also indicates that it outputs 18 to 19 watts, so the two values are quite coherent with each other. If I unplug this and plug it into the 100-watt one, it will take longer for the two devices to communicate, but you will soon see that at one point, charging will start towards the yellows. And you can see that the watt values are rising quite nicely. We are roughly achieving this 94W charging performance, but I can't really say that it meets expectations. The reason it probably doesn't charge much faster is that the internal battery is already at 84%, so the charging does slow down a bit at this point. However, it can be said that it is very pleasant, and the device indicates that the internal battery is at 32% capacity, which can provide a 90W output for 6 hours. So that's the story. It cannot be charged inwardly, so even if the solar panel can output 100 watts, there is no port through which I can recharge it, meaning this large box cannot be charged via USB. Obviously, it would take a lot of time, and besides, they should have done another piece of electronics for the inside, but they tried to save a bit on that. However, I would say that the story regarding USB is fine. Okay, we've upgraded, and we're going to continue with a no-name kettle because it will draw at least 1200 watts, but we might even approach 2000. Let's open the side door. All right, it's plugged in now. It has an on-off switch with feedback. This little thing, and it runs at 60 hertz. And then comes the moment when I pressed it. Yes, it is evident that it can take on 1700, 1800 watts, and it does so without any problems. And it is already running. So you can use a kettle quite normally, but it will only be able to serve for 18 minutes. So please make the coffee within that time. All right, let's demonstrate with a vacuum cleaner. It's not the most beautiful vacuum in the world, and of course, it will make some noise when I turn it on, but we'll see how much it asks for. Well, this requires about 600, 700 watts. Theoretically, it can handle 2400 watts. So if I turn on the kettle, which takes 1800 watts, and then I turn on the vacuum cleaner. At that moment, we were right on the edge, and it was clear that he could still handle this quite well. All right, enough of the fun here. 1000 watts is our base load, because we upgraded the set with a coffee maker, plus the lamp, plus the charge, and I'm sending the kettle on this 1000 watts. Now. Okay, you won't fool me. Vacuum cleaner. Well, that was the party so far. However, since it has currently cut off the AC side of things, the USB side remains active, so everything is turned off. But the battery is still charging at 70 watts, because it only disconnected the part from which the sockets come out, meaning the power strip where the high consumption devices were plugged in. But this only drops one part of the box. The rest remains operational. Now that we've drained the box a bit, Let's give it some charge. Here, you get a beta version. Good. The charging has started. It seems to be quite fast, and we will reach it slowly. The 1100-watt charging speed, which the device claims, can reach 100% from this 25% in 90 minutes, can theoretically be boosted with a solar panel, adding another 200 watts. According to the manufacturer, this allows for parallel charging, enabling the charging time to be reduced from 1.5 hours to a jump from 0% to 100%. Now, since the box is powered and is supposedly charging, the UPS mode is theoretically working, which I will demonstrate again with this wonderful no-name kettle. I will start boiling water, and you can see that, wow, the input jumps up. It's clear that we are boiling water, and now I will unplug the power supply. And in an instant, it switches to battery mode, and the boiling continues, meaning you can still make coffee even during a 3-minute break. What a fantastic thing. So, the situation is that I have reservations about the product because the housing it is in is quite flimsy. On one hand, I feel that the plastic is a bit rough in places. The upper door is very thin and a poor solution, and the side door is not great either. But if I look at it from a technical perspective, meaning what is inside, and if that really matters, then we can say that it can easily deliver the stated and promised output power of 2400 watts. It was evident that it allows a bit more if we heavily load it. Then the story ends with the fuse blowing, and the system shuts down. However, it only disconnects the part where it detected the overload. So if it senses an overload through the AC ports, it will shut down there, but the USB section remains operational. It's very positive that this huge battery can be charged so incredibly quickly. It's also very positive that the inverter is included. You know, the AC-DC inverter is built into the device housing, so we don't have to run around with a special charger. We can solve this with a regular power cable. And it is obvious that for the price at which this is offered, it is much cheaper than the more branded competing solutions, while it has the same type of battery. And it seems that the charging control works relatively well. As we have seen, it delivered the performance promised across all the ports we tested. So from that perspective, I really have no particular concerns or problems with it. Moreover, the display also tracks things quite well. This device doesn't have any fancy features, so there's no cheat charging, no Bluetooth, and it can't be accessed via Wi-Fi. However, the UPS mode worked really well, so you could say that this thing is quite alright, especially when considering its price. Now, one thing still needs to be tested outdoors to see what it can do with the solar panel. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I have set up the Neparello solar panel, which is 200 watts, in this autumn sunlight. Our box consumes about 50-60 watts from it. Obviously, if this is in direct summer sunlight, it could be much more. But the point is that it consumes this much even now in autumn. And actually, this is a kind of Neparello solar panel, meaning it can be folded down to a relatively small size. A person can carry it with them wherever they want. It is connected there with a smooth MCU cable, and it goes in here on the side. So this is where it gets its power, and if there were a socket nearby, I could plug in the mains electricity as well, which would allow it to draw more power from the solar panel and the mains, so they could be charged in parallel. So that's what the story offers. Well, I've brought everything back here to the table. There's one more thing I want to mention. On one hand, this solar panel is a completely simple, foldable thing that resembles a parallel structure. It's easy to carry around once you get used to its size, because it's actually not too heavy. There is a small box that contains the cables, and with 2 Velcro straps, you can also change the angle of the doble once you have unfolded it. You can also use two solar panels with it, so there is a solution where you can connect them in such a way that you charge with two panels at the same time. This, of course, depends on personal preference regarding how much one wants to rely on solar energy. If you don't have any other charging solution because you're using it in a place where only the solar panel is available, then buy two of them and you can charge with both solar panels at the same time. I don't think it will ever charge with just 200 watts, but let's say it doesn't charge with 150, 160 watts. Instead, it charges with 300, 350 watts, which is a decent charging speed. The other thing I wanted to say is that there is a manual included, and it was worth my time to study it, because it contains a couple of important pieces of information that you should know. One important piece of information is that the manual states there is a 60-month warranty, which is, well, among friends, 5 years, which I think is a lot. The question is obviously where the SolarPlay brand will be in 5 years. And the Geek Maxi, who sent this product, will start the warranty process in 5 years. But officially there is a 5-year warranty on it. Well, it's a bit concerning that it specifies where to turn to, namely to Huizhou Yongxin New Energy Technology Co. Ltd., as they are the actual manufacturer of SolarPlay. Another important piece of information is that this device contains a 48-volt battery, specifically a 33155 lithium iron phosphate battery, conscious lithium iron phosphate. And actually, that might be about it. The manual also mentions that the fan, which is included in the product and is meant to prevent overheating, is supposed to operate with a maximum noise level of 60 decibels, and it won't be louder than that. So that's basically the situation. To be honest, we looked at how we could take it apart. And here's the thing, there aren't really any visible screw inputs or outputs. Instead, there are 4 masked screw inputs on the top, which you could maybe pry open with a schnitzer, but you would definitely damage the casing a bit, because it's made of pretty flimsy material. Open at the bottom near the feet. If you fold down the foot, there is a part like this, so probably 4 such rods go along the 4 corners of the box, and that encompasses the whole structure, and if you twist it, it can be taken apart. It will be a big surprise. Probably it won't be in the interior anyway. So, the situation is that anyone who is thinking about such a product, and until now has mainly looked at solutions from major manufacturers like EcoFlow, Bluetti, or Jackery, and these can be listed endlessly, should consider how much they trust a relatively unknown product, which is also Chinese-made, that promises much more than what other companies offer in a similar price range. So, this is a kind of dilemma. I can't tell you that this will still be a great battery in 5 years because at the moment it works perfectly, meets the specified values, and everything functions as it is supposed to according to the manual. However, how durable it will be in the future is obviously a bit risky. My main concern is that the quality of the casing clearly reflects that this is a cheap product. But it costs almost half as much as a similarly capable Bluetti, so I understand that it comes in a somewhat flimsy, injection-molded plastic housing. At the same time, it is not waterproof, and it is not certain that it will be break-proof forever. But fundamentally, the point is that for this amount of money, this is what you get. If what matters to you is that it is always in one place. For example, if you take it to a rural weekend house where there is no electricity supply, and it is fixed there anyway, with a solar panel wired to it, then I would say that the Sobolia is not suitable. However, if you are looking for something more portable, then on one hand it might be too large, and on the other hand, it might be worth choosing a more robust-looking device, which will obviously be relatively more expensive, but probably will not be in the same category in terms of durability as this product from SolarPlay. Overall, I must say that for this amount of money, I think it's a worthwhile item. Obviously, it's not for everyone, and there is a narrow user group that is interested in this, but if you believe that it is indeed worth investing in something like this, then both the link and the coupon code are provided in the description, and I have ensured that you have every opportunity to make your decision. If you decide to go for it, you can purchase the item. This is all that could fit into this episode of Malak Perkse. Thank you very much to everyone who followed this story with me. I hope it wasn't too overwhelming. If it was, then you probably won't be watching anyway, so it doesn't matter what I say here. However, if you'd like to see more similar content on that channel, please pay attention to the buttons appearing around me and click on them so you won't miss out on future singing content either. Now though, I will say goodbye. Thank you for your attention and see you later.